I would love to negotiate that to see what works best, especially with Beth's budget. Food service has a budget independent of the general fund, and so it'd be great to have one of the food service admin at the table to talk about what that could look like. Again, we're proposing reclassifying jobs, so the budget, updating job descriptions, so that's one would factor that just a slight jurisdiction.
What would that be for an employee who, let's say that it says is receiving extra pay, stipend, higher, probably 80%. What would that pay transfer from a pilot school to a non-pilot school?
Question. That we can accommodate them and keep them at the same wage. But it is going to be important to conversation about what this reclass and regrade looks like before we can discuss what that would mean and a transfer would be from a pilot school to a non-pilot school.
And generally, just to talk about how kitchen managers are paid, they are paid based on the school that they're working in already. And so when you change schools that have different MEQs, your job grade can change. So there are already differentiated grades for managers. And so when we've done reclassification for that, looking at certain aspects of volume, this would look at professional skills and whatever that part of the job description is, in order to reclassify a grade. I know that our food service workers don't benefit from what the managers do in terms of pay based on grades. They're all paid on the same R schedule. So this we would propose would change that so that food service workers could also be regraded based on their job duties in the kitchen.
For helping me understand the intent there. And then so one part of your proposal here says the stakeholders will commit to developing sustainable food service practices and include nutrition education for students. So food nutrition services, well, we often refer to them as educators, they surely are. They're not technically educational specialists. So who would provide this education, and who would create the curriculum? Who would be responsible for those aspects of this proposal?
That's also a really good question. I think education is community-based. I would like to think that schools would be able to support education in classrooms. We would love for it to be a focus district-wide on nutrition education. I think initially, last year or 2 years ago, when we were negotiating the original pilot language, this was a piece that was missed and got kind of struck from it. So the goal would have been to be working these last 2 years on what that looks like. So we really need to get it back in there. We see that in these schools that are serving these new menus or new pilot options, new food options, it's difficult to get kids to try new things. So I think there's going to need to be a community-wide effort to introduce nutrition education to students. So not just food service, not just schools, but the whole community.
Okay. So shifting gears a little bit.
Can I continue on this?
Yeah.
In Article 16, when we talked about food service and added this article, we did start to talk about education and communication. So that was a really successful article because it led to the district committing to provide information and education to students and families regarding menu options, etc. Now, what we're proposing in the pilot is, goes kind of beyond what this article talks about, but our attempt here was to start having that education. I do know that there are food service workers and managers who take their jobs as educators really seriously too, about how to educate students on, here's how this food got to your table. Andrea Cisneros is one of those folks that educates students in her line about how a piece of fruit or a tomato got to their table, and started educating them about healthy choices and started to implement less junk food, more healthy food. So I think there are lots of food service workers we could probably learn from about how education can work in the kitchen without it feeling like a big burden. That the district has to create new plans, you know, there's probably a lot already happening.
So shifting gears a little bit, I think that's our final question for the food nutrition services pilot, but I want to make sure that our families here at the table, if they have any comments or responses that they want to make, we want to make time for that.
Hello, my name is Azucena, and I am part of the JESPA Food Policy Council. And I just wanted to say about the MOU. We just want to be able to offer healthy food meals for our students every day. I know that it's going to be a challenge because our schools cafeterias aren't staffed enough, and our students are struggling to get through the line so they can sit and eat. And they struggle because they don't have enough time to eat as well. So we're hoping we can have this change, have our students have more time for them to eat and have more healthier meals for our students. Because some of our students can be, the only meal they get to eat is the meal they eat at school. Because we don't know their situation at home. If they have their parents have enough money for food. And sometimes they don't. So if they don't have a healthy meal at school, the students might not even eat at home. So that is something that worries. Not just me, but everybody here, because we're humans. And our students deserve better food.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I could just piggyback on that. Something that was also in the food task force, that was also in the equitable start times. It was also a recommendation to the school board to have a 30-minute lunch with 20-minute seated time. I've brought that up a couple times to cabinet members and they were unfamiliar. They said, well, if that's something you want to do at your school, talk to your principal. And I said, it wasn't my school, it was a task force recommendation. And I was just surprised that, and I know there's been a lot of change, but sometimes things like that fall through the crack. It was a collaborative between the food task force as well as the start time. They both recommended the same thing. 30-minute lunch, 20-minute seated time.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Delia Pacheco. Soy mamá de Jefferson. Participo en un programa de mamá piloto para comidas saludables para nuestros hijos.
So, hi, my name is Delia Pacheco, and I am a mother from Jefferson Junior High School, and I am part of the pilot.
Me gustaría mirar en ustedes el día de hoy la transparencia y la equidad de la que siempre nos ha hablado el distrito.
I would like today to see in your guys' transparency, equity, that the district has always told us about.
También me gustaría saber por qué nada más 3 escuelas tienen derecho a una comida saludable, si ellos pueden tener comida todos los días.
I would like to know also why, only 3 schools are being offered the healthy meals when they should all have the right to have healthy food all those days.
Yo pienso que ustedes tienen el poder para poder hacer este gran trabajo para todos los niños.
I think you guys have the power, to make this happen, to help all these students.
Me gustaría mucho que ustedes un día se dieran el tiempo de visitar nuestras escuelas y ver todas las necesidades que tenemos todos aquí los que estamos aquí.
I would like for the district to visit our schools so they can see our necessities that we all here present need in our schools.
Me gustaría que este piloto no tuviera tampoco tiempo de expiración.
I would like for this pilot to also not have an expiration.
Gracias.
Thank you.
So much. So we'd like to shift gears. I think that's the end of our questions for the food nutrition services pilot. I did have one question, Vicki, about we received your financial proposals, as well as, I think some cost analysis that you have done. We just wanted to clarify, what exactly we're looking at within the spreadsheet and like what you costed out so that when we're doing our analysis, we can do comparisons.
The costing spreadsheet.
Yep.
Has a couple of tabs along the bottom. The way that we costed this proposal was to take everyone's current hourly wage. Increase it by the COLA that we presented, which was $5 an hour.
Okay.
And then to basically multiply the days worked, their hours worked, et cetera, to get a new annual. And so the total annual currently compared to a new annual amount would get the cost.
Okay, so this just represents the $5 COLA, correct?
Yes, and you'll hear our union say that steps don't cost. We know that, we'll know that you're going to argue that steps do cost, but steps tend to be cost neutral. The amount of turnover that we experience basically makes steps not have a cost. As new people come in and replace folks at higher levels, higher steps. So that does represent what we believe the COLA will cost based on the data that we've been provided about current employees.
Vicki, is that 32.4 million?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, thanks for clarifying that for us. I think at this point, I will get my screen ready to share so that we can present articles 5 and 8.
I just wanted to clarify and make sure you saw that there were some other tabs across the bottom. One was a model of potentially filling the longevity steps. The longevity steps currently are worth 2.5%. So this model adds, instead of 8, 12, 16, and 20, it's 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. So it adds as we continue to try to close those gaps in pay. That's a potential model. And then we added a tab that basically takes what current interpretation and translation, the pay grade for that, and it would basically institutionalize that would be the pay grade per hour that folks would make if they're pulled to translate or interpret outside of their normal job duties. Or time and a half, whichever is. But yeah, whichever makes sense. If they already make above that wage, they make time and a half for interpretation.
All right. Second here. Out of the teams meeting when we had to reconnect to the server. Start with Article 5, and I would assume you'd like us to go into Article 8 before any questions or clarifications. I think hear both proposals first. Sounds good.
Great, so I'm gonna do like Sandra did, and just highlight for you the differences between this proposal, our last one, okay? So we're looking at Article 5, attendance. And the first substantive paragraph to look at is 5-1-3. You'll see that we have agreed to remove some notice language. It's so compare that to our last. 5-1-4, we proposed some language. I think both, looks like to me that both parties have attempted to simplify the language in 5-1-4. And we've proposed our own simplification language there. And 5-1-5, as I understand it, we've agreed to the inclusion of some language proposed by JESPA there. You see it's providing for exigent circumstances to be an exception to failure to report to work amounting to job. So we've got some effort to compromise there. In 5-2-1, which I think goes on to both pages there. But here you'll see that we're JESPA had proposed to delete a number of parts of this subparagraph, which we have put back in. Specifically, one of the things that we are rejecting was the requirement that referral for a fitness evaluation considered only objective evidence, and the requirements to, or the proposal to install due process and just cause requirements in association with sending someone for a fitness review examination. Cause and due process traditionally are concepts reserved for discipline. We are, however, looks like looking at some language about association representation there that I understand was proposed by Justin. Let's see, 5-2-2 here. Let's So you'll see that we are rejecting some language proposed by JESPA regarding tailoring evaluations to a specific performance issue. And also the language that was proposed regarding the right to a second opinion. I should mention that one of the bases for the rejection of some of these proposals is that fitness for duty examinations are, this is a concept that's guided by the Americans with Disabilities Act, and so employees do have a number of protections associated with that act. You can't just give somebody a random fitness for duty examination if you feel like it. So that's kind of the reason why we're preserving some of those things for the protections of law rather than state. 5-2-3, there we're, I think that we're, let's see, the 4 consecutive days, which kind of tracks the sick leave act we have statewide. That's okay. I think the parties are agreeing on that. What we're not agreeable to was some language requiring that that request be applied uniformly and fairly to all employees. And it's something, it sounds good in concept, but one of the problems with that is that, especially with a group as diverse as JESPA, right? You've got all kinds of different departments, different supervisors, different ways of doing business. So, in the law, with respect to things like discrimination claims, similarly situated people should be treated the same. And that basically means doing the same job, reporting to the same supervisor. So broad language like that proposed, it's not acceptable. 5-4, the next paragraph. Here we're just 5-3-3. Let's see. Or it's like there. There you go. 5-3-3. That one we're not agreeable to the language proposed by JESPA concerning the deduction of breaks. I mean, this is another thing that's controlled by law. And that's it as far as change from the last report. The rest of the stuff is regardless of things.
Switching over to Article 8. Great. Switch on the screen. 1 second. Okay.
So here, and you look at this, you may recall the district's previous proposal was to change the leave, right, as I understand it right now, there is a different leave structure for paraprofessional and health aides. The district's proposal previously was to get rid of the difference, basically treat everybody in the bargaining unit the same. That proposal is not accepted. What our compromise proposal is to postpone that until August 1st, 2025. So there would be kind of a, warming up period. Our employees would get, notice of, what to expect of the new structure. So that basically touches on, Article 8-2.
Sorry, Brent, Matt, could you make it a little bigger for the people in the audience? Sure. Thank you.
So, 8-2, which is, sorry, there's a little bit of delay on my, that's 8-2, so I did. And you'll see there, so that parenthetical is what does the job with respect to what I'm describing there, gives that August 1st, 2025 date. And the, let's see, the other, that also touches 8-6. And 8-4 really, because you are past it, that's. See that until August 1st. The only other change I understand from the last proposal is. I actually see that, I don't actually, sorry, I'm mistaken, I don't think that's a change after all, there's some language in there that's marked out. So that's what we got. Oh, sorry. The appendix. You'll see.
Second bullet transfers over.
Well, sneak preview until we get there. It's just the chart is modified to reflect that August 1st, 2025 date.
Put that back up. Oh, you're putting the appendix back.
Yeah, sorry, it's a little bit of a delay here, but yes, you can essentially see the date reflected there in the accrual details and caps. That's the only adjustment there.
Can you go back to 873, please?
8. First 2 days of bereavement leave, that one.
I don't think so. It was related to the paid leave expiration. It was, I thought it was 873. It was one of the last things you had up there.
I'm sorry, I see it.
There we go. I'm sorry if I missed it. It's upon termination of employment or a transfer out of the paraprofessional or health aide position. Basically, the paid leaves paid out. That's under a subheading that expires in 2025. But would this, wanted to clarify, if it's 2026 and Nikki's accrued her paid leave and changes to another job in 2026, that's like a paraeducator role. At that point, what happens? So I think you have a heading above in 8.7 that says this expires. Or does just accrual expire, or does the payout expire?
Let us check on that, and we'll get back to you the next session on that. But I understand your question.
Okay.
And you didn't miss it. I did not speak to that.
Okay. Okay, I probably have some more questions here in this article. I don't know if anyone else does. I wrote down 8.6, but I didn't write my questions, so I think it was just about the expiration. I think it's just numbered. Okay, I see. It's 8.6, but
Yeah, the numbering of the
no worries.
article changed. That's where it's a little confusing, but Yeah, so review. Anything else, yes, that process.
Okay, I think that was my only question on E. Anyone else have any?
Question on the appendix. So for bereavement leave, it does, I just want to clarify and just ask you're striking the per death line that we also added last time.
Yes, that
Yes,
is,
okay. You just making sure I saw that.
yeah, thank you.
Can we talk about why?
Sure.
We understand.
I mean, I think as I understand, the district's original proposal here was that sick leave, we're expanding the use of sick leave to allow for that to be used for bereavement. Sorry, did I misunderstand? I thought that was the case.
Yes, but currently the district provides 2 days that are outside of that.
Right.
So like if you had a family member pass, 2 days would be bereavement leave. And then what I understood was the district would allow you to use your sick leave after that. But this to me says 2 days. And then if another family member passes, that you wouldn't have that again. It doesn't say within the year, but 2 days, how often? It implies only 2 a year.
I think you're understanding that correctly, right? So for the 2 days that wouldn't be counted against sick leave, then you'd only get 2 of those per year. But for if you have sad occasion that be able to use that more than once, you use your sick leave.
My other questions are on the other article. Any other questions?
So,
Yes, back to 522.
Evaluations.
Is this where you talked about the ADA? Was it related to that last strike through the employee has the right to second opinion
Well,
or evaluations in general?
yeah, I was referring to evaluations in general. So basically all of 5-2.
Can you tell us more about that? I think it would be helpful to know more about what you were saying about the ADA. Because you said that you can't just submit someone to evidence to a fit for duty arbitrarily based.
Yeah,
You feel like it.
sure, yeah, so off the top of my head, okay, but I understand that the law is that an employer can require a employee to submit to a fitness for duty examination if it's job related and necessary for the business. So that's what I have in my head about that. And so I think what I was thinking when I was responding to or trying to explain why the district wasn't involved is that the language that I understand was being proposed to add to that article, establishing conditions conditions in which the district could require an employee to submit to a fitness for duty examination. They should be consistent with that, you know, like, and so trying to reword them and add them on, I don't think it's a good idea. But, you know, if an employee is required to take a fitness for duty examination and it's not consistent with business necessity, or it's not related, then you know, that employee would have no right to make the EOC or the CCRD.
And then you had a strike through on the second opinion, so I just want to use an example to illustrate maybe why we have that and see. If you were sent to a fit for duty, what we've seen is that the doctor didn't actually do any examination and had written down kind of the instructions they received from the supervisor without examining the employee. And the employee then had adverse consequences. We can still file grievance, obviously, if there are adverse consequences, but I think that's what we were trying to get at with. There should be some sort of due process, some sort of reasonable cause. Something should happen. How do we protect an employee from being fit for duty out of their job or as a disciplinary measure? So we'd have to kind of argue that Article 10, our disciplinary process is being violated through a fit for duty. Or I don't know, it's just not clear in the employee's rights to have a doctor see them if the first doctor didn't, or to have some sort of recourse or process.
So elsewhere, and first of all, I'll say that that as opposed to like the FMLA, I don't think the law addresses second opinions for fitness for duty. So I'll start with that. I guess what my mind goes to if when you're talking about if an employee is let go for he recently right. I look at the current agreement and it seems to establish the process. So I think that an employee can always go, you know, if an employee disagrees with the concept that they are not fit for duty and they believe that they are, then I mean, I guess we're looking at the battle of the experts in proceeding like that. So
Yeah, I think we're trying to solve this at a lower level and just make sure that, you know, it doesn't get to that point. But
sure,
I think we can work with this, so we'll.
that's understandable. I'm just thinking, okay, well, what if the first opinion comes back? And you know, sometimes the you know, it's not always the case in my experience that the employee wants to be declared fit for duty. You know, depending on what's going on, but I guess I'm thinking under that if we have something in there saying you have a right to a second opinion. But I was just kind of thinking, where does that get us? You know, so we'll have one opinion that says one way, and then another one that potentially says another way. Then what?
We can look at workers' comp as a model for getting a second opinion.
Yeah, but you know, essentially you end up with, you know, some kind of okay. I mean, I think you're making good points, but I don't know. You have that protection of the agreement. I perceive that as pretty valuable.
Catch where it is, but the breaks. Towards the bottom of this article.
I'll find it.
Yeah, thank you.
5.3. 5.3.3. 5.3.3.
Said that breaks would be subject to law, but it's our understanding the breaks actually aren't provided by law because of, for public employees, so the Wage Act doesn't apply, which has breaks in it. So what's happening now is that, breaks aren't actually being had. Or you're on duty and your supervisor's going in and deducting breaks even though you are on duty. So this happens a lot for bus drivers that are, you're not released from duty while you're waiting on your bus, but yet breaks get deducted. So I just wanted to maybe clarify that they're not actually provided by law. We need to make sure that they're duty free. We do have some other break language in our contract.
Yeah, and certainly you're right that the rates themselves aren't provided by law, but under the FLSA, everybody's got to be paid for the time that they're working. Which is what I was thinking, but you're
Yeah.
exactly right about the wage acts not being. Second one, that. And we can talk about that. I mean, I guess that's what that's what I was thinking from the beginning when I said before, that it sounds like what that's trying to say is that, look, if I'm working, then you gotta pay me for that time. You can't just say, well, you worked, you had a shift that was 8:30 to 5, and you were supposed to take a 30-minute break. You never got around to let out pay for the 30 minutes. I think we're saying the same thing. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we just want to make it clear to anyone looking at the agreement and following it. Just because were you on break? Well, you should have had your break. Well, actually I was on duty because I wasn't allowed to leave my desk. It's kind of to clarify that situation.
Got 3 minutes for another question.
I was gonna call up a caucus to see if we have, I have some discussion, since we have 3 minutes left, we can get.
So at this point in the agenda, we would scribe out our joint communication, what we discussed tonight, and what we intend to discuss on it's April 17th.
I wrote it up last time.
I know you might.
Sounds like a tradition.
I will open a Word doc here, give me 1 second here.
When's the next meeting?
Did you all send that out, or what is your intent? What do you want to do with this communication? Because I didn't see that it came from the district.
We did not share it out broadly. We have it just as a efficiency to ensure that we're on the same page around what was discussed today and what will be discussed next time. Serves more as a record for us.
Okay, sounds good.
JESPA counter on the MOU. All right, give me 1 second. Sorry about that, everyone. This is taking a little bit. Up here, all right. Okay.
That's what'll happen next time. At the end.
Yeah, that's what
Class.
we're talking about. Yeah. So we had agreed to bring our financial proposal on the 17th. Proposals. Compensation / benefits. Yep. Oh, I will add to this that we will. That's the next. Do you think we'll be able to accomplish anything else that evening? I know we still have MEQs to talk about. Certainly does not have to be on the 17th, but we're feeling ambitious.
Go ahead, let's add it.
You planning on presenting first?
On MEQ, did you say?
Yeah,
I believe, what does it say? The MEQ will be compared.
I think it's sort of 16-ish.
I believe FNS would have to bring and provide the data for review on the MEQs. And it says no later than April 15th, so we're right around that date.
But we agreed to discuss the MEQs at the next session. That allows us time to read what we're responsible for. Does that feel okay?
This next session means 17th through 24th, just to clarify.
17. 16. That's consistent. Anything else? Right here.
Well, we'd like you to counter our proposals. They amended.
We have FNS MOU and compensation and benefits. That concludes tonight's burning session.
The only minor thing that we still had from our first session was the housekeeping item on Article 3-2-4. It's just a numbering issue. Our previous proposal, you guys were gonna bring, or at least discuss language on 1-7, the bargaining unit work. You said you were open to that.
We are.
If that's too much, then next time just send anything else.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you pointing those things out. We have not lost track or sight of those things. We have a pretty full agenda, 17. Perhaps we could discuss bringing those two items forward on the 24th. That concludes tonight's bargaining session. Interpretation headphones, if you just want to leave them on the table, we'll collect those and I'll make sure that they get back to the appropriate people.